as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
Well, welcome to another exciting edition of the Renegade and the Rambler show. I am one of your illustrious hosts, the Renegade, Dan Bailey, and joining me today will be the other co-host of the network who talked his boss into letting him off work today, the hardworking Jeff the Rambler Johnson, and Suzanne's in here keeping us all on target and trying to make us behave ourselves, which I don't think she's up for it because I'm just a renegade, so I'm all over the place. So I had quite an interesting week, but it's all work-related and it would bore you to tears. How are you doing this week, Jeff?
I'm doing pretty well. This is one of my 2 weekends I work 9 to 5, so I can do these shows, and then I work 1 weekend of 3 to 11. So next weekend I won't be around to do a show. Whether you do one, I'm not sure whether you'll get a guest host but next week I definitely won't. And then the following week I have my 2 weeks off. So I should be able to do them unless I'm away, because I do have a planned trip coming up, and I'll take my stuff, and hopefully on Friday and Saturday on May 18th and 19th, we'll have someplace in Salt Lake City to do some live broadcasts from PrepperCon. I will be out there. We'll be somewhere in the hinterlands of Utah. I'm not going to disclose the hidden bunker where I'll be hanging out, and that way the powers that be won't find me and won't find my gracious host.
Well, since you brought up next week, I might as well break it. I've already lined up a guest host for next week, Jeff.
Okay, that's great, because you already know my schedule has changed. I work 3 to 11, 3 out of 6 weeks, and then the other ones I can. And then in that rotation, I have 4 weekends where I can do shows. So 3 weekends out of 7, I can't do Sunday night shows.
Right. Well, the guest host will be John Zangaro. He's going to come back on. He's hosting a debate here in PA on Friday, which he did invite me to be there, but I can't get off work to be there. So I believe he told me he's going to post it on Facebook Live on his page, and I'll be sure to share it here. And then he's going to come on and talk about what he found out, how well it went, et cetera, and I'm sure a bunch of other topics related to general politics, because in Pennsylvania, we have about 1 week until we have a primary race in which I don't like any of the Republican candidates running for the primary race. So I give up. I think I'll just start writing my name in for everything.
If you don't vote, you're going to get Hillary. What, did you want Hillary?
Well,
Suzanne knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't know how I'm going to get Hillary because she's not running in Pennsylvania, but at this point, at least I know where she stands.
To everything. If you support ending wars, you wanted Hillary. If you support, you name the subject, then you wanted Hillary. Suzanne knows what I'm talking about.
You saw the recoil for that post. I think what my post said was at least Hillary was honest with regards to her intentions. Oh, well, that's just fine. You want Hillary. You think we'd be better off. So if you call Donald Trump off, or if you call him out on the disconnect between candidate Trump and President Trump, all the Trump flakes can come up with is clearly you would rather have Hillary as a president. These people are just as irrational as the Obama Kool-Aid drinkers. Can we please have some intellectual honesty and some consistency?
But you see, Suzanne, you just don't understand Trump. He's trying to play 3D chess.
Now it's 10D.
3D chess.
30 degrees, yes. Art of the deal.
Yeah, but he's so far out there. I mean, how could you even know what he's thinking?
He's so smart.
He's so smart. He's so smart. He can't articulate and say anything without repeating. Have you noticed the speech pattern he has? He doesn't finish a sentence and he keeps repeating the same phrase over and over again. You know, they have a really bad trade agreement with us. It's a horrible agreement. It's horrible. Their agreement with us is just simply horrible. Yes. Can we please move on? What is your thought?
That it's horrible.
Yes.
It's okay, so, we got that.
Since we have Suzanne here, we're talking about her post because really this is part of why we do what we do, because we're honest about both sides. I mean, I do not like Republicans. I do not like Democrats. Honestly, truth be told, outside of a few libertarians, I really don't like libertarians because libertarians, for the most part, will use big government to do what they want. So, okay, they want to deregulate pot. So they'll use big government to force every state to deregulate it. They want gay marriage. So they'll force every state to do gay marriage. They're just like the Republicans or Democrats. It's just that they're going to use their power to get what, their thing is. Republicans want to have the warfare state. So they keep bombing Syria. We'll talk about that in a bit. But then, so Suzanne posted this, and I was losing my mind. After a while, I finally turned off the notifications. I was sick of it. I was tired of the Trump flakes, as she's calling them, the Kool-Aid drinkers, as I was calling them. The fact of the matter is, Trump said he was not going to be an interventionist. There was no more nation building. He was pro-life, and he was going to defund Planned Parenthood. He was going to repeal Obamacare. There was going to be no gun control. I mean, those four right off the bat. Hillary was going to
get out of Syria.
Get out of Syria. Bomb everyone. She was going to make sure that you could abort babies even after they were born. She was going to make sure that Obamacare was enshrined forever, and she was going to do everything she could to control guns. She was honest about everything she intended to do. Trump lied about all those because Planned Parenthood got funded for another 9 months to the tune of $500 million, $500 million. We got gun control in there. We got more bombing. He bombed Syria unconstitutionally. So Trump lied about it. And so at the end, I finally just started posting. Trump lied. We voted for him. We voted for Trump, but we got Hillary. And that's the honest truth. That's what we did. We voted for him because he told us what he knew we wanted to hear, and then we got Hillary. So
people say, would you rather have Hillary? We got her. The only difference is at least we don't have to see her or listen to her. And she was denied this victory. She felt she was entitled to it. And I voted for President Trump really to defeat her. And I said I wouldn't do that again. I wasn't even voting for the lesser of two evils. I just despise her. But I wanted to address something.
And that's the truth be told, everyone out there that's listening, I voted for Trump as well. And I don't know about Daniel. I won't speak for him. So Suzanne and I both voted for him because, listen, I'll be honest. The pro-life thing and the non-intervention thing, I took him at his word on those two things. And those two are very, very important. And so I took him at his word. I voted for him. He lied to me. Now I'm a never Trumper. I won't vote for him again. What's the point? I'll just get more Hillary. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The appointments have been, and as far as I'm concerned, disastrous. Starting with Jeff Sessions, who recused himself immediately. Trump did nothing. And now Sessions says if he fires Rosenstein, then Sessions has to leave. Fine. That's what we call a twofer. Nikki Haley, Pompeo, John friggin' Bolton. I mean,
John bombed the world, Bolton.
Yes, this is just, to me, catastrophic. This is like, what does Tom Woods say? No matter who we vote for, we always get John McCain. And, I thought that, President Trump is not candidate Trump. at all. And I don't think it is disingenuous or supportive of a Hillary Clinton presidency to come out and say such a thing. It's the honest truth. And it just shows that we have integrity over here. We are not shills for any party, any ideologue, any player that's on our side. We call balls and strikes regardless who makes them.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I need to go to my safe space now. You all mentioned truth, and I'm only 33. My generation obviously cannot handle the truth. So I'm just going to go step over here for a minute, and I'll be...
You go have a cookie. The adults will talk.
No. I voted for Trump because I didn't want Hillary to get in. I'll be honest and upright about it.
Yes.
Because if I had to listen to one more word Hillary Clinton had to say, my ears were going to explode. Blood was going to shoot out my eyes, and I was going to look like something off The Walking Dead. And let's be honest, I don't look good as it is. I wouldn't look good as a zombie. So we're going to not go to Zombie Dam because, I don't know, I heard liberals taste good, but I wouldn't know.
Hey, you mentioned something earlier about libertarians, and Joe Buckman, he is the head of the Libertarian Party out here in Utah. Speaking, by the way, back up for just a minute, the Republican Party had its caucus in Salt Lake City yesterday, and Mitt Romney did not get the nod. He's going to have to face a primary. So His Highness, Mitt for Brains, did not get what he assumed he would get. He came to Utah promising that as a senator for the people of Utah, we would benefit by his connections. So with friends like that, who needs enemas? So hopefully my pick for the candidate will be, I like the Libertarian candidate, Craig Bowden. I've talked about him on my show. He's been on a couple times, and he's not the run of the mill libertarian. He is really, I don't like that label. I would consider him more of a Jeffersonian. Joe Buckman, we had a discussion with him because I was trying to vet him to see if we could get him on my show. And I said, well, let's talk a little bit about federalism. How do you feel about limited government and national reciprocity? And here is a question I posited to him. I took a screen capture because I knew where this was going. And he ended up blocking all of us and deleting the entire conversation. But my question, here's my post to him. Question, would a libertarian ideal Trump, and I said no pun, principles of federalism? In other words, would you find acceptable decriminalization of marijuana on a national level from Congress? What he said was, libertarians do not support use of force by the state, whether federal or state. Okay, now here's where he, in the same paragraph, talks out of the other side of his mouth. Where the federal government forces, in quotes, more liberty on a state, I believe we would support it. However, we'd also support a HOA or private homeowner or group of homeowners to ban whatever they choose. Freedom is a bit messy. It's only messy or convoluted if you don't understand federalism. So what he is saying is he would ram national reciprocity, like Charles Heller, when I debated him, down the throats of the states, or like Charles Heller said, up the tailpipe of the states. Well, Mr. Heller has his head up his tailpipe. And this guy, Joe Buckman, thought it would be the same. It would be equally as liberty promoting to force the states to surrender their sovereignty to the federal will, whether or not we like it. So that your statement reminded me of that.
Right. And that goes back to what year was it? Did Johnson run as a libertarian in the last one, or was that the one?
Gary Johnson? No, that was the last election cycle.
Yeah, but he was nowhere. He wasn't even involved in this one. It was the one before, I'm pretty sure, when Obama was running against who cares who he was running against, because it didn't matter,
because nobody tried to
nobody
beat
cared.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, no one even remembers who he ran against because no one cared. Was it Mr. Brain?
Yeah,
it was McCain the first go around, and then
Mr. Brains. Okay, so
McCain, who said during the campaign, "Look, my friends, you have nothing to fear from an Obama presidency." Well, just wave the flag. We know we're Hanoi Hilton all over again.
So anyway, Johnson and them were all during that campaign. It was that one with Mitt for Brains and Obama, because that was the one they actually got a few votes. The last one, they didn't even, I don't think they got even enough to get a blip on the radar. But they were sitting there saying that they would use the government to force states to recognize gay marriage. They would force states for these LBGPQRSLMNOP rights. So they showed they were just as big government under the guise of running as libertarians. They were certainly not the Ron Paul Libertarian Party of the past when Ron Paul ran as a libertarian.
If I was talking to John last night, and we were talking about that very thing. If the libertarians ever united on anything, which they're never going to do, because the very idea of the Libertarian Party actually uniting around an actual platform would be considered tyrannical for them, they would actually be a fighting force in politics. But because that won't happen, they're just going to be wishy-washy all the time. Because they're not, the libertarians are so splintered as a group. It would take a miracle to drag them together.
But you notice that Democrats always stick together. You don't see the backbiting that we do with the GOP members right now that we have. By and large, they're always sticking together, and they fight hard.
That was the one thing I said that the Democrat Party has going for. With the Democrat Party, if they tell you they're going to do, their planks are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If they get power, they're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There won't be any talk about, well, we got a splinter group that was not going for along with our vote. It's, you will vote for this or you will be replaced. And I don't know why the Republicans obviously do not have a backbone. They're better as a minority party, sitting there in the gallery, popping comments off, than they are actually being in power.
Speaking of minority, when they were the minority, when Obama was in as president, they were all over the Constitution. If you go back and think about 2013, supposedly, allegedly, Assad gassed people in 2013. Same thing as 2018. Same circumstances. There was allegations made. There was no proof. They couldn't prove that it happened. The only word was the rebels said that he did it. And Obama was going to bomb him. And you name a Republican out there that didn't stand in Congress or in the Senate and decry him as being illegal and breaking the rule of law if he bombed them because he had no congressional authority. He had to come to Congress and get authority. Fast forward 5 years. Now we're in the majority, and they can do whatever they want. What do? They just ignore the Constitution. So when they are the minority, they actually kind of go back and fall back in the Constitution because that's all they have to stop them from doing what they want to do, the Democrats. So they use it to their advantage then. But once they are in power, they just totally disregard it.
Well, that's why you didn't see an impeachment trial of Obama for this stuff either. Because
he didn't. The difference is he didn't even bomb him. He knuckled under. He drew the line in the stand and then never bombed them.
Yeah, but he did other things that he wasn't allowed to do. I mean, he was bombing Yemen for Pete's sakes, and clearly he didn't have authority for that.
We had no authority in Libya. We had no authority in Egypt. We had no authority in Yemen. I mean, yes, you're correct.
See, with Trump, my personal opinion and belief is he should be tried for war crimes. We did not have a declaration of war, which is required by a UN charter. The Security Council vetoed the decision to do anything about the so-called chemical strike, which is now being argued that never happened. We literally violated half a dozen treaties plus our own constitutional law to bomb a country we're not even, quote, at war with, all because the military-industrial complex needs another war. And for Pete's sakes, please tell me where in the world Congress authorized troops on the ground, because that was supposedly the reason we had to bomb these factories, because we had troops in harm's way. Why do we have troops in Syria?
Because we can.
Russia's the only country that's been invited to be over there.
Iran is the other country that's been invited, and we're in a non-declared war with Iran. Russia would have been in full, what do you want to call it, justified rights to shoot down every single one of our fighters or bombers that crossed into Syrian airspace. And there's not a darn thing we could have done about it, because Russia's invited in as an ally, and so's Iran, and we're viewed as an aggressor. Any world court would see it that way. Any war crimes court would see it that way. It's black and white. I don't understand.
See, I need to look. I need to do a little research and find out, because I saw something somewhere, but I really haven't been able to confirm it. But I'm just going to mention it, that the Christian church in Syria is just saying to America, stay out of here. We don't want you here, because before all this started, they could worship freely in Syria. The church was free to worship. And if you all remember Aleppo, the big brouhaha all over Aleppo, and then that Christmas, Aleppo, all the Christians were back there, and they were celebrating Christmas in Aleppo. Why? Because Assad lets them do it. He doesn't care. He may, okay, Assad may be a dictator, but at least he's a nice enough dictator to let people live and live their lives.
Stop if Haley, Bolton, and Pompeo have their way.
That will stop. Look what happened to the Christians in Libya. Look what happened to the Christians in Egypt. We got involved. We got rid of Gaddafi. We got rid of all the ones in Egypt. And what happened? We got Christians being killed in those countries. Why? Because we got involved. We have Christians being killed in Iraq. Why? Because we got involved. We have Christians that were fine in Iran before the Shah was put in by the CIA. Yeah, it's an Islamic heck hole. Have a good night, Suzanne.
Yes, thanks for joining us for a while you can there, Suzanne. But yeah, we haven't protected Christians anywhere else in the world. And to now say that we're going to do it in Syria is just laughable. The only reason we're even in Syria is because we want to put a pipeline through there via Turkey to get to Europe and cut into the Russian oil trade. Everybody else in the world knows it except for us. Why do you think France and England signed on the way they did to bomb in Syria?
Because it's about oil, period.
Money. It's all money. The Saudis want the pipeline. The Saudis are paying for it. Let's bomb them.
And it's the corporations are all involved in it. Again, corporatism. We have corporations that want this pipeline so they can make a lot of money. We have corporations that are making these bombs that need to have more money sent into their coffers. So Boeing, Raytheon, and all them, they're going to make sure we have a good war there so they can make another few billion in profits. This is all corporations and corporatism. It's not capitalism. It is corporatism.
There was a meme I had seen some time ago that said if American soldiers had to wear outfits like NASCAR, you'd see all these patches from ExxonMobil and all that. Now, I'm not putting down the military. The military is following orders. But I'm putting down the politicians to put the military in this predicament in the first place when the military has no business being there, because the military should be at home having a barbecue out in the back of their house with their buddies, because we shouldn't be at war in these places.
Precisely. I want to play it. I can't even quite remember what this is, but this was from that interview. This was my 9th clip the other day. And I think it might fall into place with what we're talking about, because not necessarily about the war part, but about the government. I'm just going to play it because I can't even quite remember what it is. Hopefully it's loud enough. I have everything turned up pretty high. I'll turn that. There we go.
So, what could you hope for? Well, I hope we can stop additional forms of gun control. Fix NICS was bad enough. The quote, Stop School Violence Act, unquote, was bad enough for nationalizing defense of our schools. There is money in that bill that is going to go to gun control groups. It literally says in there you can give it to the 501c3s, and then it also says in there it can't go to train anybody on gun safety. It's got to go for all the liberal sort of agendas. Yes, I mean, you could. It doesn't take much reading through the lines to see who's going to get that money in that Stop School Violence Act bill. It's going to go to liberal gun control groups.
All right. So it wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was something else. But at any rate, what can we hope for? That's why I picked it, because I thought it was something else. I couldn't remember when I listened to that whole interview. But what can we hope for? We can hope for this government to continue to do what it's doing, because the Republicans don't care about us. The Democrats certainly don't care about us. And they're going to keep spending money. They're going to spend it on those things that they want to spend it on. As you heard Representative Massey say, there's all kinds of money going to these gun control groups. They're going to keep spending money for these groups because in the end, they have to take control. They have to control the people. That's the only way this all works. They have to take away our liberty. And going back to what Patrick Henry said, the direct end of government is to protect liberty. And these cats in Washington, they ain't going to do it. And what can we hope for? More of the same. That's all we're going to get. It's not what I hope for, but that's all we're going to get.
Well, since you played that clip, this fits perfectly into what's been irking me for a while, and irking me in a good way, that is. South Carolina Republicans introduced bill to consider secession over gun rights. I believe you shared this a couple of weeks ago. This actually came out on the 6th. This is on the from the Hill. A group of Republican state legislatures in South Carolina introduced a measure Thursday that would allow the state to secede from the U.S. if the federal government began to seize legally purchased firearms in the state. The bill, which was referred to the State House Judiciary Committee on Thursday, again, this is back on the 6th, would allow South Carolina lawmakers to debate whether to secede from the United States if the federal government were to violate the Second Amendment. It states that the General Assembly shall convene to consider whether to secede from the United States based upon the federal government's unconstitutional violation of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution if the federal government confiscates legally purchased firearms in this state. The measure was introduced by GOP reps Mike Pitts, Jonathan Hill, and Ashley Trantham. Comes amid an intense debate over the nation's gun laws that have reignited in February after a deadly mass shooting in Parkland. Since then, anti-gun violence advocates have stepped up demands for new gun control laws, calling for prohibitions on assault-style weapons and stronger background checks for gun buyers, among other measures. The South Carolina bill is unlikely to make it through this session. It faces an April 10 deadline to go to the state Senate for consideration. South Carolina became the first state to secede from the Union in the lead up to this War of Northern Aggression, withdrawing in 1860. And of course, they call it a civil war. There was nothing civil about that war. And South Carolina leaving is not what led to secession. Lincoln's what led to this. South Carolina leaving the Union is not what led to the war. Lincoln led to the war because Lincoln had to put him back under his thumb because he needed the money. But that's an interesting development. It's nice to see there's at least some people that get this right, even if it is just 3 people in South Carolina.
Well, the thing is, we have to start somewhere, and it's about education. So when you have people like, I believe it's Dennis Miller in Texas, who's part of the head of the Texas nationalist movement, you have these 3 folks in South Carolina. You have Dan Fisher in Oklahoma. You have these people that are actually talking federalism, talking about things that matter, about 18th century principles that we talked about as our old motto, 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers. I mean, we have to go back and get back to this revolutionary mindset. We had to get back to the idea where these principles that founded this union, it's not a nation, it's a union. It's a union of 50 free and sovereign independent states. If we get back to those principles that Jefferson so eloquently told us about in the Declaration of Independence, we would be much better off because we would take back control. And then you have, Madison and Jefferson giving us some other ideas about how to respond to this government in the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. So if we are going to make any change, it is not going to be in Washington. Voting for the next Trump or the next Mitt Romney or the next whoever in Washington, D.C. isn't going to fix D.C. It's just not going to happen. There is too much money. There's too much power. How do these guys go there? Middle class at best and come away multimillionaires. It's because of all the corruption there. These corporations buy access. That's how do you think they get all these laws written that make sure that they make money? So we have to get back to the founding principles, start understanding that we control the government. The government doesn't control us. And until we assert that sovereignty at the local level, it's just going to continue to be business as usual.
Yeah, it's a shame, but we're going to end up having to fight another war, I think, to reset the clock, to get rid of the problems we've all inherited from the first war of Northern aggression.
I don't believe we need a war. Honestly, I wouldn't be doing this if I thought we needed a war. I believe that it's what it's going to come down to is there's going to be a financial problem. Suzanne was talking about this article, and I have it here. The fiscal picture is worse than it looks, and it looks bad. And this was from the CBO report. This is on April 11th article. You can look it up. It's from the Brookings. I believe it's Brookings Institute. And it's the fiscal picture is worse than it looks, and it looks bad. That's by William G. Gate. Wednesday, April 11, 2018. I think what's going to happen is I believe that there's going to be a reset in the economy. It's going to be bad. And I think it's going to take states just deciding they're going to move on and go on their way. And I mean, if you had Texas, Oklahoma, and a few of those, Louisiana, a few of those southern states go off on their own, they'd be one of the largest economies in the world.
Yeah. What was it? The last number I saw is if the southern states, the old CSA, broke off again, they'd be what, the 8th largest economy in the world?
Oh, I think it'd be further up than that because I thought
in the top 5.
I thought they'd be in the top 5 because I thought Texas was nearly number 5 or 6 on their own, or 10 maybe. Maybe they're down 10.
No, maybe I was thinking California. There was one. I think it was California. If California splits off, it'd be the 8th largest economy in the world. That'd
be about right because I think they're a little bit bigger than Texas still.
Because right now, the United States as a whole is number 1 by just such a large margin. And see, even if we lose California, the U.S. would still be, I think, in the top 5 as a whole. Right. It's not enough to knock us out, but it's just.
It really comes down to we have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to continue to go through this charade of vote, hope, and cope, or are we going to work? See, I said something. Someone said something the other day, and I said, "Well, listen. Well, here's the answer. You got Dan Fisher running in Oklahoma. We just need to start putting those type people up in all our states." As soon as we start getting federalists that are saying, no, the federal government doesn't rule the states. The states are the sovereigns. The states are in charge. They decide what's constitutional, what's not constitutional, not the courts. Once we get to having guys that will stand up for those founding principles, those framing ideas, then at the state level, then we'll start to see some changes because we'll make Washington, D.C. unimportant in our lives. And that's the whole goal. If we just make them unimportant, then they can bluster and bloviate all they like, and no one will care. So that's the best we can hope for at this point, is that we make them so unimportant in our lives that they truly aren't important.
Yeah, It's getting ridiculous.
All right, Daniel, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? I'm not sure. I'm looking to see here what I have.
I just found an article that you might get a good laugh from.
Okay, go ahead while I look through some of this stuff here.
I was just perusing Fox News, and they have an article up here that says woman fined $500 for saving free Delta Airlines snack.
Oh, that's got to be a federal law.
Yeah.
I mean, that anything that's stupid has got to be a federal law.
A Colorado woman is facing a $500 fine from the U.S. CBP, Customs and Border Protection, for saving a free apple she received as a snack from Delta Airlines on her way back to the United States from Paris, France. Crystal Tadlock told Fox 31 Denver, toward the end of her flight from Paris, flight attendants passed out apples in plastic bags as a snack. Tadlock put the fruit in her carry-on to save for when she was hungry during the second leg of her trip. Once Tadlock arrived in the U.S., she went through customs and her bag was chosen to be randomly searched. Tadlock says a customs agent pulled out the apple in the plastic bag with Delta's logo on it. When questioned about the snack, Tadlock explained she received the apple from the airline and asked if she could throw it away or eat it. The customs agent allegedly told her no and fined her $500 for carrying the undeclared fruit. He had asked me if my trip to France was expensive, and I said, yeah. I didn't really get why he was asking that question. And then he said, it's about to get a lot more expensive after I charge you $500. Tadlock said the innocent mistake could end up costing her bigger than just the $500 fine. She could also lose her global entry status, which allows pre-approved low-risk travelers to have expedited clearance into the U.S. Tadlock told Fox she's frustrated with the incident and feels Delta should not have passed the apples out to customers, or should have at least reminded passengers not to take the fruit off of the plane. She also thinks customs could have handled the situation differently after seeing the fruit was in an airline marked bag. It's really unfortunate. Someone has to go through that and be treated like a criminal over a piece of fruit. Maybe instead of going after Delta, she should be going after customs. Why does customs have a law saying you have to declare fruit? Seriously.
Well, I think there's some fruit that you can't bring in. I don't know. But at any rate, this is ridiculous because it's a piece of fruit that was from an American carrier that was given to him in the air. It's not like she's bringing in fruit from an exotic location that could be carrying different whatever in, whether it's a pest or whatever it is that they keep them out for. Who knows? Again, it's probably Dole paid some government official to pass a law that not allowing travelers to bring fruit in so that they could maintain their market share in the fruit selling in the United States. That's more than likely what happened.
But see, here's the thing, Jeff. I travel across the border. All right. It's not the fact that it was an apple. It's the fact that she didn't stop and tell the agent that she had an apple. Because if she had told the agent she had an apple, oh, okay, you have an apple. Check mark. Can I see the apple? Oh, it's an apple. Okay, have a nice day. But because she didn't tell the government official to whom she pays to stand there, they're going to fine her $500, even though they're searching her stuff anyway. So it's bloated government bureaucracy. Also, we can quote protect the United States from a harmful pest. It's probably coming over from Mexico anyway.
She wasn't even a terrorist. Okay, here we go. We'll ask the question that everyone always asks. How many terrorist attacks has the TSA stopped since it was created?
0. They can't even
Yep.
stop the FBI from walking fake bombs across the checkpoints.
So the fact of the matter is, a good friend of ours on radio often said that this security should be maintained by the airline carriers. They should be paying for this. It's a private thing. If they want to have this security going in, they should be running it. The TSA, well, number one, okay, well, we all know that there were no planes back in 1776. But anyway, the general government was not given any policing powers or any powers to be searching people because they're traveling. There's nowhere in there. And as a matter of fact, they're actually prohibited from searching this stuff without probable cause and getting a warrant.
But Jeff, this isn't the TSA. This is customs.
But TSA, customs, it doesn't matter. They're both equally as bad because neither of them are constitutional. Neither of them are called for in the Constitution. They're not given any authority. And since it is a federal agency, whether it's customs or TSA, they still needed to get a warrant because if they had probable cause to think that this lady was a terrorist, they should have gone and presented evidence and got a warrant, just as the Constitution requires the general government to do. They can't just search stuff because you're traveling. Just because you're traveling somewhere doesn't mean you give up your rights.
Yeah, but I think customs will be covered under the taxing authority from Congress. But it should be.
But they have there is no municipal policing powers given to the general government, and that's a municipal policing power. There's just no. The only three laws that are allowed to be enforced by the general government are piracy on the high seas, treason, and counterfeiting. That's the only three legal things that are in the Constitution as far as laws to be enforced by the general government. Three. That's it.
But Jeff, it was probably a counterfeit apple that she stole from the airline. Yeah, I'm making a money at this point.
I know.
It's counterfeit apple. Oh, myself.
But if Suzanne was still here, she would be able to tell us all about how she's an idiot because doesn't she know about implied powers? Oh, that was a funny day. I remember listening to that show. No, there are no. Okay, for those of you who are listening, there aren't implied powers. There's only direct powers that were granted. If it wasn't listed, it was retained by the states. The 10th Amendment makes it very, very clear. There's enumerated powers, the ones that they're delegated by the states to the general government to take care of as an agent of the states. That's it. If they weren't listed, they're not there. Healthcare, not listed, not there. Municipal policing, not listed, not there. It's not their purview. That is a state or local issue.
Right. And if the state of Colorado is worried about apples coming in from foreign flights, then the state of Colorado should have had an agent there to assess and verify that the apple was indeed safe.
Yeah.
But Jeff, Lincoln settled this. Everything's implied in the Constitution. The president can do whatever he wants. He can confiscate firearms in the North. Oh, by the way, that's been done. In case you, I'm amazed. The people that scream the Second Amendment protects them from that. Hey guys, wake up call. Abraham Lincoln did it to Northern citizens during the War of Northern Aggression. He confiscated their firearms. Go ahead, look it up.
This is becoming one of my pat answers to about everything. When people put in there, well, the government should do this or the government ought to do that, I always ask, give me the article and the section that gives them the authority to do it. If it's not there, they don't have the authority to do it. I don't know. There was just I didn't even look to see if anyone answered it. There was a guy going on about something, and I said, "Listen, here the end of the story. Give me the article in this section where this was given to the general government. It's not there. It's none of their business. They shouldn't be involved. This belongs to the states. The 10th Amendment gives it to the states or the people. So that's the end of the story. You can say that you want them to do this or want them to do that. It's none of their business. It's not their job. So, and honestly, out there, people, if you want to find out where people stand on the Constitution, just ask them that. Because the majority of the time, you're going to get, you're an idiot. You don't know any better. It's the good and plenty clause, or it's they have due process. Due process is required. I said, that's the 14th Amendment. And what was the 14th Amendment about? It wasn't about giving everyone due process. It was a post-Civil War amendment about the newly freed slaves. It had nothing to do with forcing everyone to knuckle under to the courts, and the courts telling everyone they have to do this or they have to do that because of due process or equal protection under the law.
You know what argument I got the last time I argued that the Second Amendment is a dumb way to make the case you should do your state constitution? I was told, quote, the federal government has the supreme law of the land clause, the supremacy clause, and thereby they can overrule everything the states do. I said, dude, you are so far off that you're not even making a complete thought accurately. And to top it off, you're just so wrong. The founding fathers are spinning in their grave right now. Seriously. Do you really think the founders who just fought off the king are going to give the national government supreme authority over all 13 colonies or 13 states at the time? Because they were already countries. Hey, really? Do you really think they would do that? I didn't think so.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, here's the deal. When people bring up the supremacy clause, for those out there listening, again, we'll get into a little bit of the complete story on that. There is a supremacy clause, but they always leave out these words: in pursuance thereto.
Yeah, they can only do it.
It's in pursuance of what? The enumerated powers, the limited things that were given to them, the 18 things in Article 1, Section 8. That's it. That's the only time it's supreme. And even that is under question. If you read the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, you can find that is even not absolutely true. The states are the final arbiter. Period. Yeah, Jefferson and Madison, the states are the final arbiter.
If you ever want to know what Article 1, Section 8 is, just listen to a Republican saying he's going to abide by it and what it entitles him to do every election season. Or look at what he does and do the opposite, because that's probably what he's actually going to do.
Yeah. Well, like I said, right now the Republicans have both houses and the White House. So they just ignore the Constitution. If they lose one of them, they'll go back to quoting the Constitution constantly because they're just trying to obstruct what it is. But when it comes right down to it, they don't care either. They want, okay, here it is. We'll go back to my old standby. Two sides of the same Marxist coin. The Republicans have their warfare state that they want to protect. The Democrats have their welfare state they want to protect. Welfare, warfare, welfare, warfare. Doesn't matter. Same coin, just flip it over. They're going to make sure they protect their corporate buddies or their welfare buddies. It's all about getting the money for the vote or the people to vote for them. It's all it is. They're Marxist on both sides of the coin. Just who they serve is all. That's the only difference. Oh, no, so where are we going now, Daniel?
Oh, I just pulled up another article that just looks hilarious. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Ex NFL kicker Jay Feely. Oh, here we go. We can just listen to the audio.
Outrage with this picture of himself armed between his daughter and her prom date, tweeting, "Wishing my beautiful daughter and her date a great time at prom."
Look at her face right there. She's like, Dad,
So
social
fair.
media not seeing the joke, like this Twitter user writing, how is this responsible gun ownership? When did guns become a vehicle for twisted humor? What in the hell is wrong with this guy? Or another one saying, quote, this is terribly out of touch with gun safety and out of touch with not making that picture and night about you.
Well, here to react, Town Hall editor and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning.
To see you.
You too.
All right. Well, no surprise. Reactions are all over the map. This issue, when it comes to guns, is always so divided. What is your response?
My response is people are too sensitive and too offended about this.
Okay, that was Jay Feely, and his daughter was going to prom, and he did what most fathers do. Threaten to use violence if his daughter's not home by midnight or whatever curfew is. And of course, social media goes nuts because he had a gun in the picture. Oh no, this isn't responsible gun ownership. We're all going to die. The guy's got a gun. He's got a gun, I say. Minus the 14 cops standing outside a prom with, full auto on their M4 carbines that they're walking around with. But yeah, okay.
And actually, I don't like Fox News. Honestly, I don't watch any of those newses anymore. The only time I ever watch a clip is if I'm going to download the audio to play here. Outside of that, I rarely watch the news. I pick up the news online. I'll see some stuff from Washington Post or one of these others. I try not to get all the stories from conservative outlets. I don't go to Breitbart. I try to get these from these mainstream media outlets, so that way they're not fringe stories. So people can't say, "Well, you're just digging down into these stupid whatever Breitbart or whoever it is." So anyway, I have to agree with her on one thing. We live in a society that is offended by everything. You know what? It's time to grow up, people. It's time to be an adult. Put on your big boy and girl panties and stop being offended by everyone. And the fact of the matter is, we had this discussion, Suzanne and I, the other day. It's gotten to the point, even on Facebook, where I just don't enjoy being on here very much on Facebook. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but because of the network, I'm always on there trying to post things. But I rarely respond to things anymore because all you get is offended people that just get rude, get personal attacks. They can't win the argument on the merit as far as going to the source material. So when you say, well, give me an article and section where it's in the Constitution, let's debate the subject on the merits of the subject. And immediately you're going to get, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a moron, whatever. It's going to immediately be a personal attack because no one can debate on the issue. It's my way or the highway. And if you don't like it, I'm just going to get rude and, I'm going to shut you off. You know what, folks? It's time to grow up. It's time to make good arguments. If you want to debate these, let's be civil and make good arguments. But Facebook, I'm tired of it. I've had about all I can take of it. I get on there just enough to post stuff for Cerberus, and that's about it anymore. So, Daniel, I'm done. I have nothing else for tonight.
All right. We only got about 5 minutes anyway,
Yeah.
so I'll just
make sure you mention SoundCloud because we do have a lot of our stuff out there now. If I don't know, is it downloadable yet? Has it been set up so it's downloadable?
I said it also. They can download it.
Okay.
I haven't been back on to check it.
Well, I haven't seen it either. I haven't been on either.
I downloaded all the shows I had on my end, which was all our shows. Well, it was all our shows. I think one of Suzanne's and a couple of mine. So they're all sitting on there. There's two different playlists right now.
I set up a second one. I set up a best of because I put a few of Suzanne's best, and I put one of mine. If you want to throw a couple of ours or some of yours in there, that'd be fine too. I just didn't know which ones you thought were your best. I put a couple of mine, and I put like Dan Fisher and a couple other Suzanne's very best. There's like 6 in there now. Throw a couple of yours or a couple of ours in there you think that were really, really good shows, and we'll just run those. I just put a best of, and then I don't know what the other one is. You set that one up, I believe.
Yeah, that was all the ones I had on my file.
All right. So I was just trying to make it so the playlist was kind of short, keep this, maybe 10 or 12. So it was not a real, you didn't have to go through every show on there to get through the list. So I think right now there's 6 on there. If you could put a couple of ours, couple of yours in there, then it would only be at 10. It would only take you a very short time to listen to that entire best of. And as we had other good shows that come up, we'll just add them in there, maybe take something out. But it is a really good list. It has some of the best of Suzanne in there, and a couple of the better ones that I've done, and they're far and few between. So anyway, good night, Daniel. I'm going to get off because we're out of time.
All righty. Well, we want to thank you for listening today. Obviously, our new time here because of my schedule. It's probably going to be 9 o'clock most of the time. But like Jeff said, you can find us on SoundCloud. It should pull up at Cerberus Radio Network. You can find us on Facebook. We're on MeWe. You can check us out there. I think I'm the only one on MeWe, though, because everybody seems to be hiding. But anyway, I'm there.
I'm there.
And I'm talking about the group over there. But Jeff's over there. Suzanne's over there. I'm over there. I'd much rather deal with it than deal with Facebook because I tend to fight too much on Facebook. But anyway, Suzanne, I believe, is having a show tomorrow. You're going to want to listen to it. She's got a great guest coming on. You'll have to forgive me. I do not remember who this guest is, but I know it's a great guest.
Brian Duff. Brian Duff from Mind for Survival.
That will be a great show. And Suzanne only ever does great shows. So there is that too. But you can find us there. Jeff will post links for the show tomorrow. You'll have all the streams. We do have a low quality or medium quality stream in case you're worried about data usage. You can always find us here on YouTube at Cerberus Radio Network. And you can find us on TuneIn at Cerberus Radio Network as well. We are on there. I tend to like using TuneIn more than any of the apps at the moment. We do have an app. You are free to download it. We don't charge anything for it. I don't believe I ever updated the graphics to it though, but all the links work. It'll say Renegade Rambler Radio, but it'll work. Trust me. Oh, so until next week, I'll be signing out. Remember, my guest next week will be John Zangaro, and we'll be talking about his debate that he hosted for over in, I believe it's Pottstown, PA. Pottstown, well, it might be Pottsville. I don't know. Too many pots in this town. So anyway, good night, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.